Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 15th of February. We are into the Lenten season, and today I am recording from St. Saviour's in church in Vermilion, just trying to make sure I do a couple of these things in each of the churches I got to, St. Thomas and St. Mary's last week. So I'm going to do today's and probably another one from here in St. Saviour's, just because they're my churches for another little while, and I'm glad to be here. One of the things I'm probably going to do over the next week or so is use a lot of ideas from this book, Jesus for the Non-Religious, by John Spong, because I've got some notes highlighted in it that I want to use, but I want to give the book to a friend before I move. So I need to, if I want to get any recordings done, I'm going to use these. This one says this, and you have to listen carefully because it holds a lot, and I'm probably not going to do it justice, but here we go. John Spong says to me, "For the life of me, I cannot understand why it is not today universally recognized that propositional statements can never capture eternal truth. Whenever a powerful, timeless experience is explained, the truth of that experience is captured inside the language, the level of knowledge, and the worldview of the explainer. Explanation always places perceived truth inside time-bound words and time-warped concepts. To identify the ultimate truth of God with the explanation of that truth is to confuse the ultimate with the transitory." I really appreciated that when I read it, and again now, because it makes me think about how many times I try to explain something to someone that is a powerful truth for me, and how many times I have to think in terms of, is it fact? Because a fact is something that is a fact. 2 + 2 is 4. A rock is hard. You can't see the air itself. When there's smoke in the air, or someone releases something, a gas or something that the air carries that's colored, we can see that, but we can't see the air. These are all things. When we speak of truth, universal truths, when we speak of a personal truth, it always, as soon as it comes out of our mouth, it's captured within the context of who we are and where we've come from, and even a bit of where we're going. I can tell you what I believe to be the truth about Jesus Christ. And it comes from a very specific context. It comes from hearing the Sunday school teacher I had, who was 72 years old when I was 6, in a very specific place, in a very white culture in St. Thomas, Ontario in 1977, and is influenced by the way the world was looking at Jesus at that time. And I got to tell you, the way the world looks at Jesus today for that 6-year-old sitting in a Sunday school is so much different than the way it was when I was a kid. So, and that truth, that understanding I have about who Jesus Christ is, that emanates from who I am, that my sense of who Jesus is, for me, that is a truth, but it is not a universal truth simply because it's caught and it's enveloped in a very specific location and time that does not speak universally. And there will be some folks who get really mad at me, and probably really mad at John Spong, for that idea that we really can't, in words and even in literature, in even the Bible, sit down and say that this is an absolute universal truth, because it simply is not. All it takes is to look at the church leaders today who are that are speaking up and are seen on television, whether they're the Deep South, the Bible Belt, the evangelical right, or the liberal left, or the people in the middle, the mainstream, or those small churches that maybe aren't churches, but small groups of people who have a belief system and share it. If it was a universal truth, if Jesus, as we understand Jesus to be, was a universal truth, we'd all be speaking the same words. And yet we're not. I think, for me, the universality of Jesus isn't about what color was his skin, how old was he, did he actually do all the miracles that the Gospels proclaim that he did. Was he an extra biblical real person? Like, is there history that says, outside of the Bible, that says he was a real person and did all these things? I understand that there are people who want and absolutely need Jesus to be that real physical person who literally did change water into wine, who literally did spit on his hands and put mud on a man's eyes and made that eye see again, who healed lepers, who cast out demons. I completely understand that there are people who need Jesus to be that literally, that Jesus that they read about in the Bible. And you know what? That's okay. I don't look at Jesus that way. I tend to think in terms of, rather than getting into an argument about the historical Jesus and things like that, I tend to think in terms of, who is Jesus for me? Who is Jesus in the life that I live, in the community I serve, in the world around me? The literal historical Jesus, I'm not using the right words. I can't explain what I mean. But the literal historical Jesus, the fact, whether, even if everything that in the Bible is exactly, absolutely true, has about as much impact on me as John Diefenbaker in Canada or Abraham Lincoln in the States. The impact that they had on the society, regardless of what they did or did not do, how many things were credited to them that they didn't do, or weren't credited to them that they did do, that had an impact on the world around them, that eventually came down through the generations to have an impact on me. That, absolutely, I believe that. But the actual historical person has very little direct impact on my life. I never met Abraham Lincoln. I never met John Diefenbaker. I never met Jesus in the flesh. So the impact that literal person had on me is negligible. The impact that person, those people had on the world, has had a considerable impact on me, but there's a difference. And when I think about Jesus and I think about our world and I think about where John Spong seems to be going sometimes, what I'm beginning to realize and recognize is that the way that I respond to Jesus in my life is so much more important than the things that I hold to be factually true. A universal truth for me about Jesus is that Jesus encourages and expects us to be kind, to respect the dignity of every other human being, especially when we don't agree with them, especially when they would look at me and say, "You're nuts, this is wrong, what you're saying is completely, horse-pucky." Am I able, when faced with someone who is disagreeing with me, am I able to look at them and see Christ within them, to see Jesus in them? That's the bigger thing. It's not about the historical fact of something or someone. For me, it's very much more about, what are those ways that they have impacted my life? And how do I allow them then to impact the way I treat other people? John Spong has my head spinning. He always does. But there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes a spinning head catches sight of something they never would have seen otherwise. And that leads them off into a new learning, a new journey, a new opportunity that they maybe wouldn't have taken advantage of had they simply meandered along the same old path. I think differently than I did when I was 6, and that's a good thing. And I know I will think differently when I'm 72 than I do now at 52, and that's also a good thing. I don't want to be stagnant. I want to discover the universal truths of who Jesus really is by continuing to discover the universal truths of the universe and other people and the way things really are and the way things really are but aren't, if that makes any sense. I'm open to the mystery. I don't need to have the fact. I have facts on one hand, but mystery is what pulls me forward and encourages me to continue asking questions and learning things. I'm not entirely sure that I spoke to the passage I read, but I do know that I am glad that I went where I did, and it will carry me through the rest of this day. Have a great day, everybody. God bless, and I will see you again tomorrow for Feel Good Friday.